I've spent 30 years listening to people's stories in hospital waiting rooms, in courtrooms, at kitchen tables where families gather after funerals. And I've learned this: the truest measure of a person isn't found in their bank account or the car they drive. It's found in the moments when everything's been stripped away, and all that's left is who they really are. The story is about 5 broken people who walked into a courtroom as strangers and walked out as family. It's about a father who lost everything but his daughter's trust, a millionaire who gained the world but lost his soul, a judge who could sentence others but couldn't forgive himself, and a 7-year-old girl who taught them all what the rest of us forgot: that the opposite of loneliness isn't money, it's grace. What you're about to read happened in San Diego, March of 2026. Every word is true. The belt buckle hit the plastic bin with a hollow clank that echoed through the courthouse security checkpoint. Thomas Wynne caught his pants with one hand, the worn khakis sagging an inch without the belt to hold them, and reached for the bin with the other. His wedding ring was long gone, sold 3 years back for his daughter's asthma medication. But the pale band of skin on his left ring finger remained, a ghost of what he'd sacrificed. Or lost, depending on who you asked. Rough morning. The security guard couldn't have been more than 25, buzz cut, smirk playing at the corners of his mouth, the kind of smirk young men wear when they've never had to choose between pride and survival. Thomas met his eyes, level, calm, the same way he used to look at families in the ICU when he had to tell them their child didn't make it through surgery. Rough decade, son. The smirk faltered. Behind him, small fingers tugged at his jacket. Daddy, why is that man laughing at you? Thomas looked down. Alara stood there in her pink light-up sneakers, the kind that flashed red and blue with every step, bought on clearance at Walmart for $12.99. Her brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail that he'd attempted himself that morning, lopsided and already coming loose. In her arms, she clutched Aurora. The stuffed husky was ratty, one glass eye missing, white fur yellowed to the color of old piano keys. Down its belly ran a crooked line of pink stitching where Alara had performed surgery after Aurora got sick last winter. She'd used the emergency sewing kit from the dollar store and taken 45 minutes to close the wound, tongue pressed between her teeth in concentration, the same way Thomas used to look when he closed chest cavities. He's not laughing, baby. He's just doing his job. It looked like laughing. 7 years old, sharp as a scalpel, Thomas guided her through the metal detector. The machine beeped clear. Alara's sneakers squeaked on the polished marble floor. Each step, squeak, flash. Squeak, flash. Squeak, flash. The pink lights reflected off the stone, tiny beacons of innocence in a building designed to swallow hope whole. The lobby smelled like coffee from the cart vendor outside. Strong. Bitter. Thomas's stomach clenched. He hadn't eaten since yesterday's supper, a can of soup split between him and Alara. His mouth tasted like old pennies. Mr. Wynne, Thomas Wynne, a photographer from the San Diego Tribune, camera already raised, shutter clicking before Thomas could turn away, a reporter beside her, notebook open, pen poised like a weapon. How does it feel to steal from dying kids? Did you spend it on yourself? What do you say to the families you betrayed? The words came rapid fire, designed to provoke, to capture the moment a man breaks. Thomas kept walking. His Alden Oxfords, 15 years old, resoled twice, but polished to a mirror shine that morning, clicked against marble. Steady, measured. The same pace he'd walked hospital corridors at 3 a.m. when a child was coding and every second mattered, but panic helped no one. Daddy. What's betray mean? It means breaking a promise. Sweetheart. Did you break a promise? No, baby. I didn't. Then why is he saying you did? Thomas stopped, knelt down, Eye level, the courthouse lobby swirled around them, lawyers in expensive suits, families clutching tissues, bailiffs herding people toward courtrooms like cattle toward slaughter. But for this moment, there was only Alara. Sometimes people say things that aren't true, and sometimes the truth takes a while to catch up, but it always does. You understand, she nodded. Then held up Aurora. Aurora says the truth is hiding, but it wants to come out. Thomas blinked. Aurora said that, she talks to me. You know that. He did know. Ever since Sophia died, Alara's older sister. Gone 7 years now, Alara had insisted the stuffed dog carried Sophia's spirit. Thomas had stopped trying to explain it away. Who was he to say what was real and what wasn't? He'd spent 15 years cutting into children's chests, and he still couldn't explain why some lived and others didn't. Why Sophia, who'd fought so hard, had died waiting for a surgery that never came. Why Alara, barely 6 months old when her mother's heart gave out from grief, had survived. Then we better help the truth find its way out, huh? He stood, took her hand. They walked toward courtroom 4C. The hallway smelled like floor wax and old paper and something else Thomas couldn't name. Desperation, maybe, or injustice. Fermenting in the walls. The building was over 100 years old. How many innocent people had walked these halls? How many guilty ones had walked free at the courtroom doors? Thomas hesitated. His hand on the brass handle tarnished, worn smooth by thousands of hands before his. Through the small window in the door, he could see them gathering. The gallery filling up. Reporters in the back rows. Laptops open. Fingers ready to broadcast every word. Families in the middle, mothers who'd trusted Hope's Harbor Children's Fund. Who'd believed their donations would save lives. Who now believed Thomas Wynne had stolen their children's futures. And up front, at the plaintiff's table, Caleb Rowan. Even through the glass, Thomas could see the Burberry trench coat draped over the chair. The 3 lawyers in matching navy suits. The way Caleb sat spine straight, chin up. The posture of a man who'd never lost anything that money couldn't replace. Thomas had met Caleb Rowan exactly twice. Once, in July of 2015, when Thomas had gone to his office and begged him to approve Sophia's treatment, Caleb had been eating lunch, some kind of salad from a restaurant that didn't list prices on the menu. He'd listened to Thomas's pitch, taken another bite of arugula, and said, "We don't have room. Transfer her to County General." 47 empty beds. Thomas had checked later that night, unable to sleep. 47 empty beds, and Caleb Rowan had said they didn't have room. The second time was 6 weeks ago, when the FBI had shown up at Thomas's apartment at dawn. Caleb had been there too, standing behind the agents, face carefully arranged into grief and betrayal. "I trusted you," he'd said, voice breaking in all the right places. "Those children trusted you." Thomas had said nothing then. He'd say nothing now, not until it mattered. "Daddy, are you scared?" He looked down at Alara. Her eyes, Maria's eyes, dark and deep and capable of seeing right through any lie, searched his face. "A little, baby. But being scared doesn't mean you stop. It just means you keep going anyway. Like when you did surgery, you told me you were always scared. But you did it anyway because the kids needed you." His throat tightened. "Yeah. Like that. Then let's go. Aurora says Sophia's already in there. She's waiting for us." Thomas didn't believe in ghosts, didn't believe in spirits or angels or any of the comforting mythology people wrapped around death to make it hurt less. He believed in blood and bone and the electrical impulses that made hearts beat until they didn't anymore. But when Alara said Sophia was waiting, he believed her. He pushed open the door. The courtroom was smaller than it looked on TV. Oak paneling, fluorescent lights humming overhead, American flag in the corner, hanging limp. The air was stale, recycled through ancient vents. carrying the breath of everyone who'd ever sat in these pews hoping for mercy. Every head turned, reporters perked up, fingers poised over keyboards, families glared. One woman in the third row actually hissed. Thomas kept his eyes forward. Walked down the center aisle, his Brooks Brothers suit charcoal gray, bought in 1998 when he'd made chief of pediatric surgery hung loose on his frame. He'd lost weight. The jacket sleeves showed white threads at the cuffs where the fabric had worn through, but he'd pressed it this morning with hospital corners, and it was clean. Ilara's sneakers squeaked with every step. Squeak, flash, squeak, flash. The pink lights seemed obscene in this place, like bringing a birthday cake to a funeral. They reached the defense table. Rebecca Carter stood his court-appointed attorney, sharp-eyed, 40-something, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Thomas's monthly rent. She'd told him last week, in their single 30-minute consultation, that she'd try her best, but the evidence was overwhelming. Digital signatures, bank records, a paper trail so clean it looked guilty. "They're offering a plea deal," she'd said. 7 years, eligible for parole in 4. "It's better than 20. "I didn't do it," Thomas had replied. She'd looked at him the way doctors look at terminal patients who still believe in miracle cures. "Mr. Wynne, I believe you believe that, but what you believe doesn't matter. What matters is what we can prove." Now she gestured to the chair beside her. "Sit, and please keep your daughter quiet. Judge Hale doesn't tolerate disruptions." Thomas helped Ilara into the gallery seat directly behind him, close enough to touch. She set Aurora on her lap, arranging the stuffed dog's paws carefully. "Aurora wants to see," Ilara whispered. Thomas nodded, turned back to face front. That's when he heard it. A mechanical whine. Electric motor struggling. The door to the judge's chambers opened. The wheelchair appeared first industrial. Chrome frame, black vinyl seat, the kind the VA issued to veterans who couldn't afford anything better. It caught on the ramp leading up to the bench. The motor whined louder. The chair jerked. Once, twice. Judge Jonathan Hale's jaw clenched. His hands gripped the armrest's knuckles white, tendons standing out like cables. He was maybe 60, but looked older. Gray stubble he hadn't bothered to shave. Glasses with a cracked lens. Eyes like winter. The wheelchair finally cleared the ramp. Hale positioned himself behind the bench. From Thomas's angle, you could just see the tops of the big wheels. The worn rubber. The way one wheel was slightly crooked, causing the chair to pull left. All rise for the Honorable Judge Jonathan Hale. Everyone stood. Except Hale. Of course. Except Hale's. "Be seated." The gallery sat with a collective rustle. Thomas remained standing until Rebecca touched his elbow. He sat. Judge Hale looked at him. Really looked. Not the way people had been looking at Thomas for the past 6 weeks, with disgust or pity or that particular cocktail of both. This was different. Hale was studying him, reading him, the way you read an X-ray, looking for the fracture. "Mr. Wynne." Hale's voice was gravel, rough from years of pronouncing sentences. "Do you understand the charges against you?" Thomas stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Embezzlement, fraud, wire fraud, grand theft. The prosecution is alleging you stole $2.1 million from Hope's Harbor Children's Fund over a period of 2 years. Money meant for dying children. Do you understand the severity of these charges?" "I do, Your Honor. And how do you plead?" The courtroom held its breath. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to stop humming. Thomas looked at Caleb Rowan. The millionaire sat perfectly still. Face arranged in appropriate solemnity, but his left hand, the one not visible to most of the courtroom, was clenched so tight around the armrest that his knuckles had gone white. And on his wrist, catching the light, a watch. Expensive. The kind that cost more than most folks' houses, more than Thomas had earned in 5 years. Caleb was checking it, not for the time, just checking, making sure it was still there, the same way Thomas used to touch his wedding ring after Maria died, needing the proof that something real had existed. Not guilty. Your Honor. A ripple went through the gallery. Someone scoffed. The reporter in the back row typed furiously. Judge Hale's expression didn't change. So, noted. Prosecution. Your opening statement. Martin Hayes stood the assistant district attorney, lean and gray and mechanical as a clock. He approached the jury box with a stack of papers. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is simple. The defendant, Thomas Wynne, was a doctor, a surgeon, a man who took an oath to do no harm. Parents trusted him with their children's lives, and when he lost that position, when he resigned under mysterious circumstances in 2015, he found a new way to profit from sick children. He gained access to Hope's Harbor Children's Fund, a charity dedicated to providing medical care for uninsured children with cancer, and over 2 years, he systematically stole $2.1 million. Every transaction authorized with his credentials, every dollar disappearing into an offshore account. Hayes clicked a remote. The projection screen lit up. Bank statements, transaction records, each one stamped with Thomas's digital signature. The defense will try to confuse you. They'll talk about character, about his years of service, but the evidence doesn't lie. And the evidence says Thomas Wynne is a thief who stole from the most vulnerable among us children fighting for their lives. Hayes sat down. Pleased, clean, simple. Rebecca Carter stood. She didn't approach the jury, just stood at the defense table, one hand resting on the surface. My client did not take that money. That was it. 8 words. Then she sat. Judge Hale raised an eyebrow. Ms. Carter, that's your opening statement. For now, Your Honor, I find that the truth doesn't require much introduction. It speaks for itself. Very well. Prosecution. Call your first witness. The people call Caleb Rowan. Thomas watched Caleb stand. Smooth, practiced, the Burberry trench coat left behind on the chair, underneath a suit that cost more than most people's cars, navy, crisp white shirt, designer tie. Caleb walked to the witness stand. Right hand raised, sworn in. The Bible in the bailiff's left hand looked small, worn, probably older than the courthouse itself. Thomas wondered how many lies it had witnessed. Mr. Rowan, Hayes began, please tell the court your relationship to Hope's Harbor Children's Fund. Caleb cleared his throat. When he spoke, his voice carried, confident, warm, the voice of a man used to giving speeches at charity galas. I founded the fund in 2016, after he paused, swallowed. Perfect timing. After a personal tragedy made me realize how many children can't access life-saving treatment because of cost. I wanted to change that. So, I established Hope's Harbor with an initial endowment of $5 million from my own pocket. The mission was simple. No child should die because their family can't afford care. And how did the defendant become involved? I hired him in 2024 as a medical consultant. He had experience in pediatric surgery, and I thought I trusted that he would help us identify children who needed our help. Instead, he used his access to steal from the very children he was supposed to save. Caleb's voice broke on the last word. His hand went to his face, covered his eyes, shoulders shaking. The gallery murmured, sympathetic, angry. Thomas felt Alara's hand on his shoulder, small, warm, steady. Daddy, she whispered. Why is Mr. Rowan crying? Thomas didn't answer. couldn't answer because he knew something the courtroom didn't. Caleb Rowan wasn't crying from grief. He was crying from guilt. Behind him, Ilara stood. Her sneakers squeaked as she climbed onto the pew. Aurora clutched to her chest. "Excuse me." Her voice was small, a child's voice, but in the sudden silence, it carried. Judge Hale looked up. "Young lady, sit down." "I can't. I have to say something." "This is not the time." "Mr. Rowan is lying." The courtroom erupted, reporters typing, people shouting, Hayes on his feet. "Your Honor, this is completely inappropriate." Hale's gavel cracked 3 times. "Order, order, or I'll clear this courtroom." He looked at Ilara. "Child, you need to sit down right now." "But he's lying about my daddy. And he's lying about Sophia." Caleb Rowan went very still. His hand dropped from his face. He stared at Ilara like she'd materialized from thin air. Thomas turned in his seat. "Ilara? Sweetheart? Sophia says it's time. Daddy. She says the truth has been hiding long enough." Judge Hale leaned forward. His eyes, those winter eyes, locked on Ilara. "How do you know that name?" "Because she was my sister, Sophia Marie Wynne. She died on November 3rd, 2015 at Mercy Hospital. She was 9 years old. She had leukemia. And Mr. Rowan let her die." The courtroom went silent. Not the restless silence of before. This was different, vacuum-sealed, like the air itself was holding its breath. Caleb Rowan's face had gone white, chalk white. His hand on the witness stand started to shake. Judge Hale's fingers tightened on his armrests. "Bailiff, approach the bench." But before the bailiff could move, Ilara was already walking, down the aisle, past the bar, her pink sneakers flashing with every step. She stopped in front of Caleb Rowan and looked up at him. "Mr. Rowan, will you please let my daddy go? I know you're sick. Not body sick, heart sick. And I can help. I can make Judge Hale walk again. Then maybe you won't need to hurt people anymore to feel better." For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then someone in the gallery laughed, nervous, uncertain. Then another. Then the whole courtroom was laughing. At the 7-year-old girl who thought she could make a paralyzed judge walk. At the absurdity, at the desperation of a child trying to save her father. But 3 people weren't laughing. Thomas, because he'd learned not to dismiss what his daughter said, Caleb Rowan. Because he was staring at Ilara like he'd seen a ghost, and Judge Jonathan Hale. Because he'd just gripped the armrests of his wheelchair so hard his knuckles cracked. Ilara set Aurora on the witness stand rail. The one-eyed stuffed dog stared at Caleb. "Sophia wants you to know she forgives you. Mr. Rowan, she's been waiting 10 years to tell you that, and she wants Judge Hale to know something too." "That's enough." Hale's voice was sharp, but his hands were shaking. "Bailiff, return this child to her seat. She says you don't have to sit in that chair anymore if you don't want to. The doctor said you could walk. You're the one who stopped trying." Judge Hale froze. His face went through 5 expressions in 2 seconds. Shock, anger, fear, recognition, and something else. Something that looked like a door opening after being locked for years. "How?" His voice was barely a whisper. "How do you know that?" "Because Sophia told me. She sees things. She sees you in that chair every night. She sees Mr. Rowan not sleeping. She sees my daddy trying so hard to be brave. And she sees me. She says I'm supposed to help. That's why I'm here. That's why Aurora brought us all together." The laughter had stopped. Now there was only silence. The kind of silence that happens when something impossible brushes up against reality and no one knows which one to believe. Thomas stood. Slowly. "Your Honor, my daughter has been through a lot. She doesn't mean to disrupt." "Sit down. Dr. Wynne." Thomas sat. Judge Hale was staring at Ilara. really staring, like he was seeing her for the first time, or like he was seeing someone else entirely. What's your name? Child. Alara Marie Wynne. I'm 7 3/4. Sophia was my big sister. She died before I could remember her, but she talks to me anyway. Through Aurora. She held up the stuffed dog. This was hers. The real Aurora died a week after Sophia did. The doctor said Aurora died from sadness. I don't know if dogs can die from being sad, but Daddy says sometimes people do, so maybe dogs can too. Sophia put her spirit in this Aurora before she left so I wouldn't be alone. And Aurora has been with me ever since. Judge Hale removed his glasses, cleaned them with a handkerchief from his robe pocket, put them back on. The cracked lens made one eye look fractured. Ms. Carter, he said finally, does your client's daughter have a habit of, making statements like this? Rebecca, Carter stood. Your Honor, Alara is 7 years old and frightened. She's trying to help her father the only way she knows how. I apologize for the disruption. I'm not disrupting, Alara said. I'm telling the truth, and the truth is that nobody in this room is telling the whole story. Mr. Rowan is crying because he feels guilty. Judge Hale is angry because he feels broken, and my daddy is quiet because he thinks if he stays quiet long enough, everybody will figure out he didn't do anything wrong. But that's not how it works. Sometimes you have to speak up, even when you're scared. She turned to face the gallery. Every eye in the courtroom was on her, this tiny girl in pink light-up sneakers, holding a one-eyed stuffed dog, speaking truth to a room full of adults who'd forgotten how. My sister Sophia died because Mr. Rowan said there wasn't room for her in the hospital, but there were 47 empty beds. My daddy counted them. He quit his job because he couldn't save her, and he's been trying to save other kids ever since. He didn't take any money. He doesn't even have money. We live in an apartment that's smaller than this courtroom. He sold his wedding ring to buy my medicine. He wears the same suit he wore when Mama was alive. And every year on November 3rd, he goes to the cemetery and tells Sophia he's sorry he couldn't save her. Thomas felt his throat close, his eyes burn. But Mr. Rowan, Alara turned back to Caleb, he's the one who took the money. He took it to build something called Sophia's Wing, a place for sick kids. He did it because he can't stop thinking about my sister, because he knows he could have saved her and he didn't, and now he's trying to make my daddy look bad so nobody knows what he did. Caleb Rowan made a sound. Not quite a word. More like something breaking. His hand slipped off the witness stand rail, his knees buckled, and Caleb Rowan, CEO of Mercy Hospital, millionaire, philanthropist, collapsed in the witness box and started sobbing. Not the practice tears from before. This was raw, animal, the sound of a man who'd been holding something in for 10 years and couldn't hold it anymore. I killed her, he gasped. I killed that little girl. There were 47 empty beds, and I said we didn't have room because I didn't want the paperwork. I wanted to make the quarterly numbers look good. I wanted the board to see I could cut costs. I wanted the promotion to CEO. And she died. She died waiting. And her mother died, and I got my promotion, and I've been trying to buy my way out of it ever since. But you can't buy your way out of killing a child. You can't. The courtroom was silent. Judge Hale sat frozen, his hands still gripping the armrests, his face unreadable. Hayes, the prosecutor, stood. Your Honor, I need to request a recess. I need to confer with my witness. Denied. Hale's voice was ice. You opened this door. Mr. Hayes, your witness is melting down on the stand. Deal with it. Alara walked back to Thomas, climbed up into his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck. It's okay now, Daddy. Sophia says the truth came out. It was hiding for a long time, but it came out, just like you said it would. Thomas held his daughter. His hands were shaking. His breath was shaking. Everything was shaking except Alara, who was calm as a stone in a river. Behind them, someone in the gallery started clapping. Slow, steady. An old woman in a faded cardigan, gray hair pulled back in a bun. Eleanor Shaw. Thomas didn't know her name yet, but he'd never forget her face. Or what she did next. She stood, reached into her purse, pulled out a protein bar and a file folder. And Eleanor Shaw, who'd been fired from Mercy Hospital 10 years ago for trying to save a 9-year-old girl named Sophia Wynne, walked down the aisle to face the man who'd destroyed both their lives. "Judge Hale," she said, voice steady as Sunday hymns. "I got something to say about all this, and I reckon it's about time somebody said it. If this story stirred something in you, reminded you of a time when truth finally came to light, or when a child's innocence cut through years of lies, I'd be grateful to know where you're listening from. Sometimes we all need to remember that no matter where we call home, the truth has a way of finding us." Eleanor Shaw's orthopedic shoes squeaked on the marble, each step deliberate, measured. The kind of walk you develop after 32 years on hospital floors, efficient, purposeful, never wasted. She stopped at the bar, the wooden divider separating gallery from court. The protein bar was still in her left hand. Generic brand, strawberry. The wrapper crinkled when she gripped it tighter. "Your Honor," she said. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. The way nurses speak when a patient is coding and there's no time for emotion. "Before you hear any more from Mr. Rowan, I reckon you ought to know who's really lying here." Judge Hale's fingers drummed once on the armrest. "Ma'am, you're out of order." "I know I am, sir. Been out of order my whole life, according to some folks. But I got something that's in order. Been carrying it for 10 years, waiting for the right moment." She held up the file folder, manila, stained, the edges soft from being handled. "This here's Sophia Wynne's medical chart. The real one. Not the sanitized version Mr. Rowan's lawyers probably got." Caleb's head snapped up. The tears on his face were drying, leaving salt tracks. His mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. Hayes was on his feet. "Objection! Your Honor, this woman can't just waltz in here with alleged evidence." "I can, if I stole it." Eleanor's voice didn't waver. "From Mercy Hospital, July 2015. Right after they fired me for trying to save a 9-year-old girl's life." The courtroom held its breath. Thomas felt his pulse in his temples, in his wrists. He knew that file. He'd looked for it after Sophia died, after Maria's funeral. When he'd tried to build a case, tried to understand what had gone wrong, but the hospital records had been scrubbed clean, redacted, disappeared. Eleanor turned to Thomas. Her eyes, pale blue, watery with age, met his. "You look like you haven't eaten since yesterday, son." She held out the protein bar, not asking, offering, simple, direct. "Can't fight a battle on an empty stomach. My late husband used to say that. Army, 2 tours." Thomas stared at the bar. His throat was dry, hands shaking. "Ma'am, I can't. Did I ask you to pay me back?" "No, but—" "Then hush up and take it." He did. The wrapper crinkled in his palm. He could feel every eye in the courtroom watching, judging, a stranger giving food to a man accused of stealing from children. Eleanor patted his shoulder. Her hand was light, spotted with age, steady. "You got the look of a good man carrying weight that ain't his." She turned back to Judge Hale, opened the file folder. "Now then, Your Honor, about Sophia Wynne, and the 47 empty beds." On the witness stand, Caleb Rowan's hands were shaking so hard his watch rattled against the wooden rail. That expensive watch, the one that cost more than most folks' houses, and in the gallery, hidden in the back row. A young reporter leaned forward. She was maybe 25, notebook open, but her pen had stopped moving. Because she recognized Eleanor Shaw's name. Because 10 years ago, she'd been an intern at the Tribune when an old nurse got fired for insubordination. And because that nurse had called her yesterday and said, "If you want the story of your career, be in courtroom 4C tomorrow morning, bring a camera, bring tissues, and bring your conscience, you're gonna need all three." Rebecca Carter stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to examine this document before it's presented to the court." "Too late for that, Counselor." Judge Hale leaned forward. The wheelchair creaked. "Ma'am, approach the bench and bring that file with you." Eleanor walked forward. Her cardigan was pilled at the elbows, the hem unraveling where she'd caught it on something years ago and never bothered to fix. Around her neck, hanging from a faded lanyard, a hospital ID badge. Mercy Hospital. Pediatric Oncology. The photo showed a younger woman, hopeful. The expiration date read August 2015. She still wore it, every day, like a scar she refused to hide. Judge Hale extended his hand. Eleanor gave him the file. His fingers were steady, taking it. Started shaking when he opened it. The first page was a patient intake form. Handwritten, blue ink. Some of it smudged where water had hit the paper. Or tears, hard to tell which. Patient name, Wynne. Sophia Marie Doe B. March 14, 2006. Primary diagnosis: acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Stage 2, attending physician Dr. Thomas Wynne. Pediatric surgery. Insurance status denied. Experimental treatment. Clause recommended action transfer to county. General at the bottom, in different handwriting. Neater. The kind of penmanship you develop signing your name 500 times a day. Rowan. CIFO. And a date, July 12, 2015. Judge Hale's jaw tightened. "Bailiff, put this on the screen." The bailiff took the file. 30 seconds later, Sophia's intake form filled the projection screen, every word visible, every signature. The denied stamp in red ink like a blood stain. Thomas felt the protein bar wrapper crinkle in his grip. He'd stopped breathing. Couldn't remember how to start again. Alara tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, that's Sophia's paper, the one you looked for. You said it was gone." "It was gone, baby." "Then how did the nice lady get it?" Eleanor answered without turning around. "I stole it, sweetheart. Right out of the records room. Hid it in my purse under a bag of butterscotch candies and my rosary. Walked past security like I owned the place, because after 32 years, I figured I did own a little piece of that place. Least I owned the right to remember what happened there." Hayes was on his feet again. "Your Honor, this witness is confessing to theft of a document that proves your star witness is a liar." Judge Hale's voice cut like surgical steel. "Sit down. Mr. Hayes, I want to hear what else Mrs. Shaw has to say." Eleanor turned to face the gallery. Her hands were shaking now. Just slightly. The way hands shake when you're 72 and you've been carrying something heavy for too long and you're finally allowed to set it down. Sophia Wynne came into Mercy Hospital on July 10, 2015. Friday afternoon, her mama brought her in. Maria Wynne. Worked 2 jobs, cleaned offices at night. Served lunch at a diner during the day. Brought Sophia in because the girl was bruising. Bleeding from her gums when she brushed her teeth. We did blood work. Came back fast. Too fast. The kind of fast that means the lab tech saw something bad and pushed it to the top of the pile. Eleanor's voice was steady. Clinical. The way nurses talk when they're giving report at shift change. Facts only. Emotions filed away for later. Dr. Wynne Thomas here, he diagnosed her that same day. ALL, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, stage 2, but early. Caught it before it spread to her central nervous system. He told me, "Eleanor, if we start treatment now, she's got a 70% shot, maybe better. She's young, she's strong. We can save this one." Thomas's throat was closing. He remembered that day. Remembered Maria Wynne's face when he delivered the diagnosis. Remembered Sophia asking if she'd lose her hair. Remembered promising her it would grow back. That she'd get through this. That they'd make sure she got through this. Eleanor reached into her purse again, pulled out another paper. This one was a photo, printed on regular copy paper. The colors faded, but you could still see a girl, 9 years old, bald, hospital gown too big on her thin frame. She was smiling, holding a white puppy. Husky, maybe 8 weeks old. Blue eyes, one ear flopped forward. "That's Aurora," Elara whispered. "The real Aurora." Eleanor nodded. Sophia loved that dog. Pause for Hope brought her in as a therapy animal. Sophia named her Aurora because she said the puppy's eyes looked like the northern light she'd seen in a picture book. She told me she was going to get better and take Aurora home, and they were going to grow up together. She set the photo on the witness stand rail. Next to where Elara had placed the stuffed Aurora, the one-eyed toy stared at its younger self. But Maria Wynn's insurance denied the treatment, called it experimental, even though the protocol had been FDA approved since 2009. Even though it was standard care, they denied it because Maria worked for a company that bought the cheapest insurance they could find, and the cheapest insurance they could find had more exclusions than coverage. Eleanor turned to face Caleb Rowan. He was still on the witness stand, still sobbing, but quieter now, like he'd run out of sound. So Dr. Wynn went to Mr. Rowan's office, Monday morning, July 13th. I know because I was there, waited outside the door while Thomas begged for 45 minutes. I heard every word through that door. Dr. Wynn offered to do the surgery for free, offered to waive his fees, asked the hospital to cover just the cost of the drugs and the bed. You know what Mr. Rowan said? Silence. He said, "We don't carry bad debt. Dr. Wynn, it makes the quarterly reports look weak. And I've got a board presentation in August. Transfer her to County General. They take charity cases." Then he went back to eating his lunch, some kind of salad, arugula. I remember, because a piece of it was stuck in his teeth when he opened the door to let Dr. Wynn out. Caleb made a sound, low, broken. His hands covered his face. County General had a 6-month waiting list. Eleanor continued. Sophia died November 3rd, exactly 3 months and 22 days after Mr. Rowan told us we didn't have room. Maria Wynn had a heart attack February 7th, 2016. The coroner called it a myocardial infarction. I call it a broken heart. Sophia had a baby sister, 6 months old. Would have ended up in foster care except Dr. Wynn here quit his job, sold everything he had, and took her in. Eleanor reached into her purse one more time, pulled out a final document. Death certificate, official, stamped, signed, Sophia Marie Wynn, November 3rd, 2015. Cause of death. Complications from untreated acute lymphoblastic leukemia. She set it on top of the other papers. Now, Mr. Hayes. You were saying something about my client being a thief. The courtroom was silent. Not the restless silence of before. This was deeper, heavier, the kind of silence that happens when everyone in the room realizes they've been wrong about something important. Judge Hale removed his glasses, cleaned them with a handkerchief. The cracked lens caught the light. When he put them back on, his eyes were different, softer, or maybe just tired. Ms. Shaw, how long were you a nurse at Mercy Hospital? 32 years, Your Honor. Started when I was 21, retired at 53. Except I didn't retire, I got fired. For what? Insubordination. I kept trying to get Sophia's treatment approved. Went over Mr. Rowan's head to the board, to the medical director, to anyone who'd listen. They said I was causing trouble, disrupting operations, making other families think they could ask for charity care too. They let me go on August 15th, 2015. Gave me 2 weeks' pay and told me if I talked about Sophia's case to anyone, they'd sue me for violating HIPAA. But you kept the file anyway. Yes, sir, because someone needed to remember that little girl. Someone needed to remember what happens when you treat people like numbers on a balance sheet instead of human beings worth saving. Judge Hale set the file down. His hands were still shaking. He gripped the armrests again. The chrome squeaked. "Mr. Rowan," he said quietly, "I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want a direct answer. Did you deny treatment to Sophia Wynne because it would impact your hospital's quarterly financial report?" Caleb's hands dropped from his face. His eyes were red, swollen. The expensive suit looked wrong on him now, like a costume that didn't fit anymore. "Yes." One word, but it changed everything. Hayes was standing again. "Your Honor, my witness needs a moment. Your witness needs a lawyer." Judge Hale's voice was ice. "And not one representing the state, because if what I'm hearing is true, Caleb Rowan isn't the victim here. He's the perpetrator." The gavel came down once. And, in the gallery, behind Thomas, a man in the third row pulled out his phone and started recording. Because he wasn't a reporter, he was an FBI agent, and he'd been waiting 2 years for someone to finally tell the truth about Mercy Hospital's finances, and now he had it. On record, in open court, from the CEO's own mouth. Rebecca Carter was standing now, her hand on Thomas's shoulder, fingers tight enough that he could feel her pulse through the fabric of his jacket. Fast, rabbit quick. "Your Honor," she said, voice level, "I'd like to call Eleanor Shaw as a witness for the defense." Hayes shot to his feet. "Objection. She's not on the witness list, because I didn't know she existed until 5 minutes ago." Rebecca's grip on Thomas's shoulder loosened. She stepped forward. "But she's here. She has first-hand knowledge of the events in question, and unless you're afraid of what she has to say, Mr. Hayes, I suggest you let her speak." Judge Hale drummed his fingers once on the armrest. The sound echoed. "Miss Shaw, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do, Your Honor. Been telling the truth my whole life. Cost me plenty, but I sleep at night." "Then take the stand." Eleanor walked to the witness box. Caleb Rowan was still sitting there. He looked up at her. His face was blotchy, red around the eyes, nose running. The designer tie was crooked now, pulled loose at the collar. "You need to move, Mr. Rowan," Eleanor said. Not unkind, just factual. "I got things to say and you're in my seat." Caleb stood. His legs were unsteady. He gripped the rail, pulled himself up. His lawyer, one of the 3 Navy suits, rushed forward to help. Caleb waved him off, walked back to the plaintiff's table on his own, each step deliberate, like a man walking to his own execution. Eleanor settled into the witness chair, adjusted her cardigan. The vinyl seat squeaked under her weight. Rebecca approached. "Ms. Shaw, please state your full name and occupation for the record." "Eleanor Margaret Shaw, retired nurse, or fired nurse, depending on who you ask." "How long did you work at Mercy Hospital?" 32 years, started in 1983, fresh out of nursing school, 21 years old and thought I could save the world." Eleanor's mouth twitched. "Not quite a smile. Took about a week to figure out I couldn't save everyone, but I learned to save who I could, and I learned to remember the ones I couldn't. And Sophia Wynne was one of the ones you couldn't save." Eleanor's hands folded in her lap. The liver spots stood out against her pale skin. Her knuckles were swollen. Arthritis. Years of starting IVs and checking vitals and lifting patients who couldn't lift themselves. Sophia Wynne was one I could have saved. Should have saved. Would have saved if money hadn't mattered more than a little girl's life. Hayes was on his feet. "Objection? Speculation? Overruled. Answer the question, Ms. Shaw." Eleanor nodded. "Sophia came in July 10th, 2015. Friday, late afternoon. Her mama Maria brought her in, said Sophia was tired all the time, bruising easy, bleeding when she brushed her teeth. We ran labs, CBC came back within an hour. White blood cell count was through the roof. Platelets in the basement. I knew before the doctor even looked at the results. Seen it too many times. Leukemia. Thomas's hands were clenched in his lap. The protein bar wrapper was crushed now, a tight ball of plastic and aluminum. He didn't remember crushing it. Dr. Wynne diagnosed her that same day. Eleanor continued. All acute lymphoblastic leukemia, but stage 2, early. She had a good shot if we started treatment fast. 70% survival rate, maybe higher for a kid her age. She was 9, strong, healthy except for the cancer. We could have saved her. Why didn't you? Insurance denied coverage, called the treatment experimental, even though it's been standard protocol since 2009. Even though hospitals across the country use it every day, they denied it because Maria Wynn's insurance was cheap. The kind of policy that looks good on paper but doesn't cover anything when you actually need it. Rebecca picked up the intake form from the evidence table. And what did Dr. Wynne do when the insurance denied coverage? He went to administration, asked if the hospital could cover the treatment costs, said he'd waive his surgical fees, asked them to just cover the drugs and the bed, give Sophia a chance. And what was the response? Eleanor's jaw tightened. Mr. Rowan said no. Said the hospital doesn't carry bad debt. Said it would make the quarterly financials look weak. Told Dr. Wynne to transfer Sophia to County General. Did you witness this conversation? I waited outside Mr. Rowan's office door, heard every word. Dr. Wynne begged for 45 minutes. I know because I timed it. Stood there watching the clock on the wall, watching the second hand go around and around while a man begged for permission to save a child's life. The courtroom was quiet. Someone in the back row coughed. The sound was sharp, intrusive. What happened after that meeting? Rebecca asked. Dr. Wynne came out. His face was white. I asked him what Mr. Rowan said. He just shook his head, walked away. I went in. Hayes stood again. Your Honor, the witness is testifying to events she didn't directly observe. She just said she went in. Let her finish. Judge Hale's voice was sharp. Eleanor nodded. I walked into Mr. Rowan's office. He was eating lunch, some kind of fancy salad. Had a piece of arugula stuck in his teeth. I told him we couldn't transfer Sophia to County General. Told him they had a 6-month waiting list. Told him she'd be dead before they could treat her. You know what he said? Rebecca waited. He said, That's not my problem, Miss Shaw. My problem is keeping this hospital profitable. And we can't do that if we give away free care to every sob story that walks through the door. Then he told me to get back to work before he wrote me up for insubordination. Eleanor's hands were shaking now, just slightly. The way hands shake when you're holding something in for a long time and you're finally allowed to let it go. I went back to work, but I kept trying. Went to the medical director, to the board, to anyone who'd listen. Told them we were letting a child die for money. Told them we had 47 empty beds that night. I counted them myself. Walked through every wing. 47 empty beds, and we didn't have room for one 9-year-old girl. What was the result of your advocacy? I got fired. August 15th, 2015. They called it insubordination. Said I was causing trouble, disrupting operations, making other families think they could demand charity care, gave me 2 weeks' pay, took my badge, told me if I talked about Sophia's case to anyone, they'd sue me for violating patient privacy laws. Eleanor reached up, touched the hospital ID badge still hanging around her neck. But I kept the badge, and I kept Sophia's file, smuggled it out the day they fired me, hid it in my purse under a bag of butterscotch candies, walked right past security. Been carrying it ever since. Why? Rebecca's voice was soft. Why keep it? Why risk legal action? Because someone needed to remember. Someone needed to know what happened. What really happened. Not the sanitized version. Not the story Mr. Rowan's lawyers would tell. The truth? And what did keeping that truth cost you? Eleanor's mouth tightened. My pension. They said I violated my separation agreement by keeping hospital property. Cut off my benefits. All 32 years. Gone. I live on Social Security now, $843 a month. Anything else? My marriage. My husband Bill couldn't handle the stress, the money troubles, the lawyers calling. He said I should have just kept my mouth shut, should have let it go. We divorced in 2017. He passed in 2021. COVID. Never got to tell him I was right, that some things are worth losing everything for. The courtroom was silent. Even Hayes had stopped objecting. Rebecca walked back to the defense table, picked up another document. Your Honor, I'd like to enter this into evidence. Sophia Wynn's complete medical record, the one Ms. Shaw preserved. It shows 47 documented empty beds the night Sophia's treatment was denied. It shows Dr. Wynn's request for pro bono care, and it shows Caleb Rowan's signature denying that request. One of Caleb's lawyers jumped up, young, eager, too eager. Your Honor, that document was stolen. It's inadmissible. It's the truth, Eleanor said. Her voice cut through the courtroom, not loud, just clear. You can call it stolen. You can call it inadmissible. You can call it whatever makes you sleep at night. But it's the truth, and the truth doesn't need permission to exist. Judge Hale leaned back in his wheelchair. The motor whined softly. His hands gripped the armrests, white-knuckled. His face was unreadable. I'll allow it, he said finally. Ms. Carter approached the bench with the document. Rebecca picked up the file, started walking. That's when Caleb Rowan stood, his chair scraped back. Loud, harsh. Wait! Everyone turned. Caleb's face was wet. Tears and sweat and something else. His hands were shaking. The watch rattled against his wrist bone. He fumbled with the clasp, pulled the watch off, set it on the table. I took the money, he said, voice hoarse, broken. I took the $2.1 million, not Dr. Wynn, me. I took it to build Sophia's wing, a pediatric ICU. I thought, his voice cracked, I thought if I saved enough kids, I could forget the one I killed. The courtroom erupted. Reporters typing, people shouting, Hayes trying to reach Caleb, the lawyers pulling him back down into his chair. But Caleb wasn't looking at any of them. He was looking at Alara, at the small girl in the front row holding a one-eyed stuffed dog. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. And Judge Jonathan Hale's hands, gripping the armrests of his wheelchair, began to shake so violently that the whole chair rattled. Because he'd just realized something that changed everything. He knew Caleb Rowan, not from this case. From before. From when Hale had been a patient at Mercy Hospital. From when he'd had his surgery. From when everything in his life had gone wrong. And the surgeon who'd operated on him, the surgeon Hale had blamed for 5 years, was sitting at the defense table, looking just as shocked as everyone else. Judge Hale's gavel cracked 3 times. The sound split the air like gunshots. Order! Everyone sit down, or I'll clear this courtroom. The noise dropped. People settling back into pews. Reporters still typing, but quieter now. Fingers on keyboards instead of voices. Hayes was whispering urgently to Caleb, one hand on his shoulder. Caleb wasn't listening. He was staring at the medical file on the evidence table, at Sophia's intake form blown up on the projection screen. Rebecca Carter picked up another page from Eleanor's file, held it up. Your Honor, I'd like to read from Sophia Wynn's treatment plan, the one Dr. Wynn prepared the day she was diagnosed. Judge Hale nodded. Proceed. Rebecca's voice was steady, clinical, reading facts like a grocery list, but her hand holding the paper was shaking. Patient Sophia Marie Wynn, age 9. Diagnosis acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Stage 2. Recommended treatment chemotherapy protocol, 45B, FDA, approved 2009. Standard care for pediatric ALL. Success rate 70% for patients under age 10. Treatment cost $47,000. Insurance status denied. Reason experimental treatment clause. Hospital decision transfer to County General. Estimated wait time 6 months. Projected survival without immediate treatment 3 to 4 months. Rebecca set the paper down, picked up another one. This one was a photograph, printed on regular copy paper. The ink had faded. The edges were soft from being handled. "This is Sophia Wynne," Rebecca said. She held it up. The bailiff put it on the screen. Thomas's breath caught. He'd seen this photo before, had looked for it after Sophia died. After Maria's funeral, it had disappeared from the hospital records. He'd thought it was gone forever. Sophia. Bald from chemo she'd never received. Hospital gown 3 sizes too big, but smiling. Wide, genuine. She was holding a puppy, white husky, maybe 8 weeks old, blue eyes. One ear flopped forward. The puppy was licking Sophia's cheek. At the bottom of the photo, someone had written in pencil, Aurora. Donated by Pause for Hope. July 2015. Sophia's therapy dog. Alara gasped. She stood up on the pew, pointing at the screen. "That's Aurora. That's the real Aurora, before she went to heaven." Thomas turned in his seat. "Alara, baby, sit down." "But, Daddy, I never saw a picture of her when she was little. You said she died when Sophia died. You said she died from being sad." The courtroom had gone quiet again. Everyone looking at the 7-year-old girl holding a one-eyed stuffed dog, looking at the photograph of her dead sister holding the real version. Dogs can die from being sad. Someone in the gallery whispered. Eleanor Shaw, still sitting in the witness box, nodded. Aurora died a week after Sophia, November 10th. The shelter called it failure to thrive, but I was there. I saw that dog. She stopped eating, stopped moving, just laid down in her kennel and gave up. Sometimes grief kills. Doesn't matter if you're human or animal. Grief is grief. Judge Hale cleared his throat. The sound was rough, like gravel scraping against gravel. "Ms. Carter, is there a point to this?" "Yes, Your Honor. The point is that everyone in this courtroom has been operating under false assumptions. The prosecution assumes Dr. Wynne stole money. The gallery assumes he's guilty. Even Dr. Wynne himself has been assuming he has to stay silent and let the evidence speak for itself. But the evidence has been lying. And it's time someone told the truth." Rebecca turned to Thomas. "Dr. Wynne, would you like to address the court?" Thomas looked at Rebecca, at Eleanor, at Caleb Rowan, who was staring at his hands like they were covered in blood only he could see. Then Thomas stood, slowly. His knees cracked. The Brooks Brothers suit hung loose on his frame. The cuffs were frayed, the shoulders worn shiny from years of wear. But he stood straight. "Your Honor, I was Sophia Wynne's surgeon. Or I was supposed to be." His voice was quiet, steady. The same voice he'd used to deliver bad news to families. The voice that said, "I'm going to tell you something terrible, and I'm going to tell you without falling apart, because one of us has to stay strong." July 10th. 2015. Sophia came into Mercy Hospital. I diagnosed her within 4 hours. All, stage 2, treatable. I've done this surgery 100 times. Maybe more. 70% of those kids survive. Some of them are in college now. Some of them are married, having kids of their own. They're alive because we caught it early and treated it fast. Thomas's hands gripped the edge of the defense table. His knuckles were white. Sophia should have been one of them. Should have been alive right now. 17 years old, graduating high school, thinking about college, Worrying about prom dates and SAT scores? Normal things? Kid things? He looked at Caleb. Direct. Unflinching. But her insurance denied coverage. And when I went to administration, when I went to Mr. Rowan's office and begged him to approve treatment anyway, he said no, said the hospital doesn't carry bad debt, said it would make the quarterly financials look weak, told me to transfer her to County General. Thomas's jaw tightened. I told him County General had a 6-month waiting list, told him Sophia would be dead before they could treat her. He said, "That's not my problem." Then he went back to eating his lunch. The courtroom was silent. Not a cough, not a shuffle, just breathing. Collective. Held. I quit 2 weeks later. Couldn't work for a hospital that valued profit margins over children's lives. Sophia died November 3rd, exactly 3 months and 22 days after Mr. Rowan denied her treatment. Her mother Maria had a heart attack 3 months after that. February 7th, 2016. The coroner called it a myocardial infarction. I call it a broken heart. And Thomas turned to look at Alara, at his daughter, at the reason he'd kept going after everything fell apart. Sophia had a baby sister, Alara, 6 months old when Maria died. No other family, would have gone into foster care, so I petitioned for guardianship, sold my house, sold my car, sold everything except what we needed to survive, moved into a studio apartment, been raising her on my pension ever since. That's why I live small. That's why I wear this old suit. That's why I sold my wedding ring to buy asthma medication. Not because I stole money, because I gave it away. To keep one promise I could actually keep. Rebecca picked up another document. Bank statements, highlighted in yellow. Your Honor, these are Dr. Wynn's financial records for the past 10 years. His income, $28,000 annually from Social Security disability. His expenses rent, utilities, food, Alara's medical cares, and a monthly donation to Pause for Hope, the therapy dog organization that gave Sophia her Aurora. He's been donating $50 a month for 10 years, $6,000 total, money he couldn't afford to give, but he gave it anyway. She set the statements down, picked up another file. This one was thicker, official-looking. And these are Hope's Harbor Children's Fund transaction records, every withdrawal, every transfer, every signature. They all show Dr. Wynn's employee credentials. But here's the problem. Dr. Wynn surrendered those credentials when he resigned in August 2015. He hasn't had access to Mercy hospital systems in over 10 years. He couldn't have stolen this money. He didn't have the access codes, didn't have the authorization, didn't have the ability. Hayes stood. His face was red, neck bulging over his collar. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Sit down, Mr. Hayes. Judge Hale's voice was ice. Let her finish. Rebecca clicked the remote. The screen changed. New document, bank transfer. Offshore account, registration dated January 2024. The money didn't disappear, it was transferred to this account. Registered to MH Executive Discretionary Fund, Mercy Hospital. The authorization signature, she clicked again. Caleb Rowan, CEO. The same man who denied Sophia Wynn treatment. The same man who fired Eleanor Shaw for trying to save her. The same man who's been sitting at that table calling Dr. Wynn a thief while hiding the fact that he's the one who took the money. The courtroom erupted. Voices, shouting, camera flashes, Hayes on his feet, Caleb's lawyers surrounding him. Caleb stood. Not smooth this time. Jerky. Uncoordinated. His chair fell backward. Crashed against the floor. The sound was loud. Final. I took it. His voice was raw, stripped. I took the money, all of it. Used it to build Sophia's wing, pediatric ICU, state-of-the-art. I thought. His voice broke, shattered, pieces falling. I thought if I saved enough kids, I could forget her. Forget Sophia. Forget the way her mother looked at me when I said we didn't have room. Forget the 47 empty beds. Forget the piece of arugula stuck in my teeth while a man begged me to save his patient. I thought I could buy my way out of it, build something good with the guilt, but you can't. You can't buy your way out of killing a child. Caleb's knees buckled. He caught himself on the table. Barely. His lawyers were pulling at him, trying to get him to sit, to stop talking. He pushed them away. I see her every night. Sophia, standing in the doorway of my office, holding that clipboard, waiting for me to sign, and I keep saying, "We don't have room, come back tomorrow." But tomorrow never comes. It never comes. He looked at Thomas, at Alara, at Aurora, the stuffed dog with one eye missing. I got my promotion 3 months after she died. Corner office, $600,000 salary. And every morning I wake up thinking, a 9-year-old girl died so I could have this. Every morning, for 10 years. Caleb Rowan, millionaire, CEO, philanthropist, sank to his knees. Right there in the courtroom. His expensive trousers hit the floor. The marble was cold, dirty, scuffed from years of people walking, shuffling, dragging their feet. His knees hit hard. The sound echoed. His hands gripped Alara's shoulders, not rough. Desperate, like she was the only thing keeping him from falling further. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." And Judge Jonathan Hale's hands were shaking, gripping the armrests of his wheelchair. His breath was coming fast, shallow, because Alara had just said something impossible, something she couldn't have known, something no one had told her. Judge Jonathan Hale had been in physical therapy for 6 months after his surgery. The doctors said he could walk again with work, with effort, with time, but he'd stopped going, stopped trying. Sat in the wheelchair and told himself it was permanent, that he deserved it, that this was his punishment for all the people he'd failed to protect when he'd been a hospital lawyer defending Mercy Hospital against malpractice suits, defending Caleb Rowan's decisions, including the one that killed Sophia Wynne. And somehow, this 7-year-old girl knew. Judge Hale's gavel cracked once. Sharp. Final. 30-minute recess. Mr. Rowan, you stay where you are. Bailiff, keep everyone in the courtroom. No one leaves. The motor on the wheelchair whined. Hale jerked the control stick. The chair spun. Too fast. The armrest caught the edge of the bench, metal on wood, a scraping sound that made teeth ache. He didn't correct, just pushed forward. The chair lurched through the door to his chambers. The doorframe was narrow, built before wheelchairs, before the Americans with Disabilities Act. The right wheel caught. The chair stopped. Stuck. Hale's jaw clenched. He reversed, tried again, hit the doorframe harder this time. The impact rattled his teeth. "Your Honor, let me—" The bailiff started forward. "Don't." One word. Hale pushed the control stick hard left. The chair jerked free, scraped through, disappeared into chambers. The door slammed. In the gallery, Thomas sat frozen. His hands were still gripping the edge of the defense table. Rebecca was saying something. He couldn't hear it, couldn't hear anything except the blood rushing in his ears. Alara tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, the judge is sad." "I know, baby." "Aurora wants to help him." Thomas looked at his daughter, at the stuffed dog in her arms. The one glass eye stared back at him. "Sweetheart, the judge needs some time alone right now." "No, he doesn't. He's been alone too long. That's why he's sad." Alara climbed down from the pew, started walking toward the door to chambers. The bailiff stepped in her path. "Hey, kiddo, you can't go back there. The judge needs Aurora. The judge needs quiet. Come on, back to your seat." Alara looked up at him. 7 years old, pink light-up sneakers, one-eyed stuffed dog, but her eyes, Maria's eyes, dark and deep, didn't blink. "Please. It's important." The bailiff looked at Thomas. Thomas started to stand. Rebecca put a hand on his arm. "Let her," Rebecca whispered. "I don't know why, but let her." The bailiff looked at the door to chambers, at Ilara, back at the door. "5 minutes," he said finally. "That's it? Then I'm coming to get you." Ilara nodded, walked past him, pushed open the door. Judge Hale's chambers were small. One window, dusty. The glass hadn't been cleaned in years, maybe longer. One desk, government issue, metal, scratched. One bookshelf, law books, all of them. No personal books, no novels, no magazines, no photos. That was what hit first. No family photos, no wedding picture, no kids, no grandkids, nothing. The walls were bare except for one framed quote. The glass was dusty. The frame was cheap. Plastic made to look like wood. "Justice delayed is justice denied." The quote was printed on plain paper. Computer font, Times New Roman. Someone had written in the corner in red pen, "Do you still believe this?" Judge Hale was at his desk, back to the door. The wheelchair was positioned facing the window, looking out at the courthouse parking lot. Gray asphalt, white lines, cars baking in the sun. "I said 30 minutes. His voice was rough. "That means come back in 30 minutes. "I'm not Karen." Hale spun the chair, fast. The motor whined. He saw Ilara, standing in the doorway, holding Aurora. "How did you security should have—" "The nice man let me through. He said you looked like you needed a friend." Hale's hands tightened on the armrests. "Kid, judges don't have friends." "Why not?" "Because we send people to jail, lock them in cages, separate them from their families. People don't tend to like that." Ilara walked in. Uninvited, unwanted. She stopped in front of the desk, set Aurora on the metal surface. The stuffed dog flopped over, listing to the side where the eye was missing. "Aurora wants to meet you." "It's a stuffed animal." "She's more than that. She's got Sophia inside, and Sophia remembers you." Hale went very still. His breath caught, held. "What did you say?" Ilara reached into her cardigan pocket, pulled out something small, a business card, old, worn. The corners were soft, rounded from being carried. The lamination was peeling at the edges. She held it out. Hale took it. His hands were shaking now, not just trembling, shaking hard enough that the card rattled. "Jonathan Hale, Esquire, Civil Litigation Attorney, Mercy Hospital Legal Department, 2008 to 2014. The phone number was disconnected, had been for years. The email address was defunct, but the card was real. Hale recognized it, recognized the coffee stain in the upper right corner. From a meeting in 2013, a deposition that had gone badly. He'd slammed the cup down. Coffee had splashed, ruined a whole stack of cards. "Where did you get this?" "My daddy had it in a box, under his bed. He keeps important things there. Papers, letters, pictures of Mama. And this? He said you used to work at the hospital, before you were a judge, before your surgery." Hale set the card on the desk, carefully, like it might break. "Your father is a very thorough man." "He's a good man." "That's different." "Is it?" "Uh-huh. Thorough means you remember stuff. Good means you do the right thing even when it's hard. Daddy says being good is harder than being thorough." Hale's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Almost. Your father's a smart man, too." "I know. That's why I don't understand why Mr. Rowan is lying about him, or why you're letting him." The words hung in the air. Flat, direct, no accusation in the tone. Just fact, the way children state facts. Sky is blue, grass is green. Judge is letting a liar win. Hale looked at Alara, really looked. 7 years old, cardigan from Target, scuffed sneakers, one-eyed, stuffed dog, but standing there like she owned the room, like she had every right to be here, to question him, to hold him accountable. "I'm not letting anyone lie," he said finally. "I'm following the law, the evidence, the procedure." "But the evidence is lying. Ms. Shaw said so. She said the papers say Daddy took the money, but Daddy didn't have the computer passwords. So the papers are lying. Evidence doesn't lie. People lie. Evidence just exists. Then the people who made the evidence are lying, and you're believing them instead of looking harder." Hale's jaw tightened. "That's not how court works." "Maybe that's the problem." Silence. Heavy. Hale stared at this child who'd just questioned the entire legal system in 6 words. "You sound like your father." "No, I sound like Sophia. She talks to me, through Aurora. She tells me things. Sophia is dead. I know, but dead doesn't mean gone. It just means different. Sophia's different now, but she's still here, though, still watching, still caring about things." Alara picked up Aurora, held the stuffed dog out to Hale. "She wants you to hold her. I don't want to hold a stuffed dog. It's not for you. It's for Sophia. She wants you to know she forgives you." "Forgives me for what I didn't? For sitting in that chair when you don't have to?" The words hit like a fist. Hale's breath stopped. His hands froze on the armrests. "What did you say?" "The doctor said you could walk. If you did therapy, worked hard, tried, but you stopped going, stopped trying. Daddy told me. He said you gave up." Hale's vision blurred, the edges going soft, fuzzy. "Your father had no right. He didn't say it to be mean. He said it because he's sad about it. He said you were a good surgeon's patient. You did everything right, but the surgery got infected and you got paralyzed and Daddy couldn't fix it. He said he still thinks about you. Wonders if you're okay. Hopes you're doing therapy. But he knew you probably weren't. He said you had the look." "What look?" "The look people get when they decide to stop trying, when they decide the bad thing that happened is what they deserved. When they sit down and decide not to stand back up." Hale's throat was closing. His eyes were burning, hot, wet. "How do you know this?" "Because Sophia told me. She sees you every night, in your house, in the dark, sitting in that chair in front of the TV but not watching, just sitting, waiting for something, but you don't know what you're waiting for, so you just keep sitting." Alara stepped closer, pushed Aurora into Hale's hands. He took the stuffed dog, automatic, reflex. It was lighter than he expected, worn soft from years of being held. "Sophia says you don't have to wait anymore. She says she's been waiting to tell you something. For 5 years, ever since your surgery. She says you don't have to sit in that chair to punish yourself. The surgery wasn't your fault. The infection wasn't Daddy's fault. Sometimes bad things just happen, and sitting in that chair won't change it. It just makes more people sad." Halo looked at the stuffed dog in his hands, at the missing eye, at the crooked pink stitching down the belly where a 7-year-old girl had performed surgery. His hands started shaking. His shoulders, his chest. Everything shaking. Coming apart. He made a sound. Low. Broken. Not quite a word. Not quite a cry. Something between. And Judge Jonathan Hale, who hadn't cried in 5 years, who'd sentenced murderers and rapists and thieves without blinking, who'd built walls so high nothing could reach him, pressed the one-eyed stuffed dog to his chest and sobbed. Alara climbed into the chair across from him. Her feet didn't touch the floor. She sat quiet, patient, the way children sit when they know an adult needs space. After a long time, Hale's breathing slowed, steadied. He set Aurora gently on the desk, wiped his face with his sleeve. "How did you know?" His voice was raw, stripped. "About the therapy, about me stopping. I told you, Sophia. Sophia is dead." "I know, but Aurora remembers, and Aurora tells me things Sophia saw, things Sophia knows. Sophia was at the hospital when you had surgery. She was in the bed 3 doors down from you. She watched the nurses wheel you past, watched Daddy check on you every day. She heard him talking to the other doctors about how worried he was, about how the infection was spreading, about how he couldn't stop it." Hale's breath caught. "Sophia Wynne was there, during my surgery." "Uh-huh. July 2015. You had surgery, July 14th. Sophia came in July 10th. She was still there when you got sick. She watched, she remembered, and when she died, she put all those memories in Aurora so someone would know, so someone would tell you." Hale stared at Alara, at this impossible child saying impossible things. "Tell me that you were a good man who worked for a bad hospital, that you defended bad decisions because that was your job, but it wasn't your fault. You were just doing what you were told. Just like Daddy was doing what he was told when he couldn't save Sophia. Just like Ms. Shaw was doing what she was told until she couldn't anymore. We're all just doing what we're told until we decide to stop." She pointed at the wheelchair. "And you've been sitting in that chair doing what you were told. The pain told you to sit. The guilt told you to sit. The fear told you to sit. But Sophia says you don't have to listen anymore. She says there's too many empty chairs in the world. People sitting when they could be standing, not because their legs don't work, because their hearts stopped trying." Outside, in the courtroom, someone knocked on the door. The bailiff. "Time's up, kid. Judge needs his space." Alara climbed down from the chair, walked to the door, stopped, turned back. "Judge Hale Aurora says one more thing." "What?" "She says when you're ready to stand up, Daddy will help you, because that's what doctors do. They help people stand up when they've been down too long." She left, the door closed behind her. Soft, quiet. Judge Hale sat alone in his chambers, looking at the one-eyed stuffed dog on his desk, at his hands on the armrests of the wheelchair, at his legs, motionless, still. He placed both palms flat on the armrests, took a breath, pushed. Nothing happened. He pushed harder. His arms shook. His jaw clenched. Tendons stood out in his neck. His right leg twitched. Just a twitch, barely visible, but it moved. And in the courtroom, Thomas Wynne was sitting at the defense table when he heard it. A sound from chambers, muffled, distant, a crash, like something falling, something heavy. Then silence. The courtroom door opened. The wheelchair came through first. The motor was quieter now, smoother, like Hale had stopped fighting it. His face was different. Red around the eyes, nose running. He hadn't wiped it, hadn't tried to hide it. The cracked lens in his glasses caught the fluorescent light, made one eye look fractured. Alara walked beside him, not behind, beside, like they were equals, like a 7-year-old girl and a federal judge were the same height, same weight, same authority. She was still holding Aurora. The one-eyed stuffed dog dangled from her hand, dragging on the floor, the worn fur collecting dust from the marble. The gallery went quiet. Reporters stopped typing. Lawyers stopped whispering. Even Hayes, who'd been pacing near the prosecution table, froze mid-step. Judge Hale wheeled himself to the bench. The ramp didn't catch this time. He took it slow, deliberate. Like he was learning how to move again, how to exist in the chair instead of fighting it. He positioned himself behind the bench, looked out at the courtroom, at the faces staring back at him. "Mr. Rowan," he said, voice steady, quiet. Approach the bench. Caleb stood. His legs were unsteady. He gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles bone white. The three lawyers in navy suits moved to follow him. Hale raised one hand. Just Mr. Rowan. No lawyers, no advisors, just you. Caleb walked forward alone. Each step visible effort, like walking through water, through mud, through something thick and heavy that wanted to pull him down. Up close. He looked worse. The Burberry trench was still draped over his chair. The expensive suit navy, crisp that morning, was wrinkled now. Sweat stains darkened the fabric under his arms, spreading, visible. The white shirt underneath was yellowed at the collar. The designer tie hung crooked. The label twisted, facing out instead of in. His hands were shaking. The watch steel, discontinued, worth more than most folks' houses, rattled against his wrist bone. He'd twisted it so many times the clasp had dug into his skin, left a red mark, raw, bleeding slightly. Judge Hale reached down beside his wheelchair, picked up Aurora, the one-eyed stuffed dog. He set it on the bench between himself and Caleb. The glass eye stared at the millionaire, unblinking, judging. Mr. Rowan, you confessed to embezzlement, to fraud, to stealing $2.1 million from a children's charity fund, but I don't think you took that money for yourself. No, sir. Caleb's voice was hoarse, raw, like he'd been screaming. Maybe he had. In his head. For 10 years. Then tell me why. The truth this time. Not the speech you practiced with your lawyers, not the story that makes you look less guilty, the actual truth, the kind that hurts to say out loud. Caleb's hands gripped the edge of the bench. His fingernails scraped the wood. The sound was sharp, wrong. I see her every night. The words came out broken, jagged. Sophia. In my dreams. She's standing in the doorway of my office, holding a clipboard. The way she did that day? July 13th. The day after Dr. Wynne came to beg, Sophia's mother brought her, Maria. She wanted to ask me herself, wanted to look me in the eye and ask why we couldn't help her daughter. Caleb's breath was coming fast now. Shallow, like he couldn't get enough air. I made my assistant tell her I was in a meeting. I wasn't. I was eating lunch, watching stock prices on my computer. I heard her crying in the hallway, heard her say, please just let me talk to him. My baby's dying. I turned up the volume on my computer, drowned her out. Someone in the gallery gasped. A woman. Third row, the same one who'd yelled earlier about stealing from babies. She wasn't yelling now, just crying. Silent. Tears running down her face. That night I went back to the hospital, 2 a.m, couldn't sleep. I walked through every wing, counted the beds, empty beds. Pediatrics had 47. 47 empty beds, clean sheets, equipment ready, nurses on duty with nothing to do, and I'd told Maria Wynne we didn't have room. Caleb's voice cracked, splintered. He was crying again, but different this time. Not the practiced tears from before. This was ugly. Snotty. His nose was running. He didn't wipe it. Let it drip onto his tie, onto the expensive silk. I got the promotion 3 months later. November. CEO of Mercy Hospital. $600,000 salary. Corner office. Company car. Stock options. The board said I'd done an excellent job controlling costs, improving the bottom line, making tough decisions. They gave me a plaque. It's on my wall at home, in recognition of outstanding fiscal management. I look at it every morning when I get dressed. Every morning I think, a 9-year-old girl died so I could have this. His hands were shaking so hard now the bench was rattling. The sound echoed, hollow, empty. I built Sophia's wing with the stolen money. Pediatric ICU, state-of-the-art, best equipment, best staff, 0 wait time. I thought if I saved enough kids, I could erase her, could balance the scales, could buy my way out of it, but you can't buy your way out of murder. You didn't murder anyone, Judge Hale said quietly. You made a business decision. A bad one. A cruel one. But not murder. What's the difference? Caleb's voice rose. Broke. She died because I said no. Because I wanted my numbers to look good. Because I wanted a promotion. I killed her. I killed a child for money. What do you call that? The courtroom was silent. No one answered. No one could. Alara stood up from the gallery pew, started walking. Her pink sneakers squeaked, flashed. Red, blue, red, blue. She passed through the gate, past the bailiff, walked right up to Caleb Rowan. She was small. He was tall. Her head barely reached his waist. She looked up at him. Dark eyes, Maria's eyes, Sophia's eyes, seeing right through him. Mr. Rowan, Sophia's not mad at you. Caleb looked down at her. His face was wet, destroyed. He tried to speak. Nothing came out. Just a sound. Raw. Animal. Alara reached out, took his hand. Her small fingers wrapped around his. His hand swallowed hers completely. But she held on. Steady. Sure. How do you know? Because she told me. In my dream, she said, tell the sad man with the shiny watch that I'm okay now. Tell him to stop punishing himself. Punishing yourself doesn't bring people back. It just makes more people sad. Caleb made that sound again, louder this time. He dropped to his knees, right there, in court. His expensive trousers, custom-tailored, virgin wool hit the courthouse floor. The marble was cold, dirty, scuffed from years of people walking, shuffling, dragging their feet, gum stuck to the surface, black streaks from shoe rubber, a dried coffee stain someone had tried to mop up but gave up halfway. His knees hit hard. The sound echoed. The left knee landed in something wet. A spill from earlier. Water, maybe. Or soda. The fabric soaked it up immediately. Dark stain spreading. Ruining the crease. Ruining everything. His hands gripped Alara's shoulders. Not rough. Desperate. Like she was the only thing keeping him from falling further. From sinking through the floor into whatever hell waited below. I'm sorry. The words came out broken, shattered. I'm so sorry. I killed her. I killed your sister. I killed a little girl because I wanted a promotion. Because I wanted money. Because I was too proud to admit I was wrong. You didn't kill her, Alara said. Her voice was calm, patient. The way children speak when adults are falling apart. You made a mistake. People make mistakes. Not like this. Sophia made a mistake, too. She tried to pet Aurora before asking. Aurora got scared and bit her, right here. Alara pointed to her own arm. Left a scratch. Made her bleed a little. But Sophia didn't get mad. She said, Aurora didn't mean it. She was just scared. Sometimes when you're scared, you hurt people, but that doesn't make you bad. It just makes you scared. Caleb's shoulders were shaking, his whole body. The expensive suit, the manicured hands, the watch worth more than most folks' cars, all of it shaking, coming apart. Then she hugged Aurora, even though Aurora bit her. She hugged her and said, It's okay. I forgive you. Good friends mess up sometimes. That's when you love them harder. Alara squeezed Caleb's hand. Sophia says you messed up, but she forgives you, and she wants you to stop sitting in the dark, counting money that doesn't make you happy. She wants you to stand up and help other kids. Real help, not just building buildings with your name on them. Real help. Behind them, Thomas was standing. He'd stood without realizing it. His hands were gripping the back of the chair, knuckles white, watching a millionaire kneel before his daughter, watching the man who'd destroyed his life fall apart in a courthouse. He should have felt satisfied, vindicated, justified. Instead, he felt something else, something quieter, sadder. Like watching someone finally admit they were drowning after years of pretending they could swim. Eleanor Shaw was crying again. Silent. Steady tears running down her weathered face. She was holding a tissue. Not using it. Just holding it, like she'd forgotten what it was for, and Judge Hale was staring at his hands, at the armrests of his wheelchair, at the stuffed dog on the bench, at the 7-year-old girl teaching a room full of adults what forgiveness looked like. Caleb Rowan stayed on his knees. The floor was cold, hard, his trousers were ruined, the wet stain on the left knee, a scuff mark on the right from where he'd scraped against the marble. Dark. Permanent. The kind of stain that doesn't come out, the kind that reminds you forever of the moment you fell. "What do I do?" he whispered, to Alara, to the room, to God, to anyone listening. "How do I fix this?" "You can't fix it," Alara said simply. "Sophia's gone. Mama's gone. That part's done. But you can help the kids who aren't gone yet, the ones still waiting, still hoping someone will say yes instead of no." She let go of his hand, walked back to Thomas, climbed into his lap, wrapped her small arms around his neck. Judge Hale picked up his gavel, set it down without using it, looked at Caleb Rowan, still kneeling, still broken. "Mr. Rowan, stand up." Caleb tried. His legs wouldn't work, wouldn't hold him. One of his lawyers rushed forward, helped him up. Caleb stood, swaying, unsteady, like a man learning to walk after years in bed. "I'm ready to hear your sentence, Your Honor." "I'm not ready to give it." The courtroom held its breath, "because I need to know something first. And I need the answer to be true. Not what you think I want to hear, not what your lawyers tell you to say. The truth." Hale leaned forward, his eyes winter gray, hard as stone, locked on Caleb. "If I let you walk out of here today, what are you going to do with the rest of your life?" And behind them, the door to the courtroom opened. A man walked in, dark suit, FBI badge clipped to his belt. Behind him, 3 more agents. And behind them a woman in a pantsuit carrying a federal warrant for Caleb Rowan's arrest on charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, charges that carried 20 years minimum. The FBI agent stepped forward, badge held up, gold shield catching the fluorescent light. "Caleb Rowan, I'm Special Agent David Miller, Federal Bureau of Investigation. I have a warrant for your arrest on charges of wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to defraud a charitable organization. You have the right to remain silent." "Wait." Judge Hale's voice cut through the room. Sharp. Absolute. "Agent Miller, I appreciate your timing, but this is still my courtroom, and I'm not finished with Mr. Rowan." Agent Miller stopped mid-sentence. His hand was on the handcuffs clipped to his belt. He looked at Hale, at the wheelchair, at the federal warrant in his colleague's hand. "Your Honor, with respect, we have jurisdiction. You have jurisdiction when I say you have jurisdiction. Right now, Mr. Rowan is a witness in an active case. Your warrant can wait 5 minutes. Or you can arrest me for contempt and explain to your supervisor why you disrupted a federal judge mid-proceeding." Agent Miller's jaw tightened. He stepped back, nodded once. 5 minutes. Your Honor." Hale turned back to Caleb. The millionaire was still standing, barely. His legs were shaking, his hands gripping the edge of the bench like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "Mr. Rowan, I asked you a question. If I let you walk out of here and that's looking less likely by the second, what are you going to do with the rest of your life?" Caleb's throat worked, swallowing, trying to find words, any words. "I don't know," he whispered. "I don't know how to fix this, how to make it right. Sophia's dead, Maria's dead, the money's gone. I destroyed Dr. Wynn's life. I fired Miss Shaw. I don't know what I can do except go to prison and accept that I deserve it. That's not an answer. That's giving up. What else is there?" Judge Hale placed both hands on the armrests of his wheelchair, flat, palms down, his fingers spread, gripping. The chrome was cold under his skin, smooth. Worn from 5 years of his weight pressing into it. "There's standing up," Hale said quietly. "Even when you don't think you can, even when every part of you says to stay down, to accept the chair, to accept that this is what you deserve, you stand up anyway." His arms tensed, shoulders bunched, the robe pulled tight across his back. Because sitting down, whether it's in a wheelchair or a prison cell or a corner office counting money you don't need sitting down, is easy. It's safe, it's comfortable, but it's not living. It's just waiting to die. Hale pushed, hard. His arms shook, trembled. The wheelchair creaked. The vinyl seat groaned under the pressure. Nothing happened. His face went red. Veins stood out in his neck. His jaw clenched so tight a filling cracked. The sound was small, sharp, like a pencil snapping. Still nothing. "Your Honor?" The bailiff started forward. "Stay there. Mike." Hale's voice was strained, tight, but clear. "I need to do this myself." He pushed harder. His arms were shaking now, full tremor, the kind that comes from pushing past muscle failure, past pain, past the point where your body screams to stop. His left leg twitched, small, barely visible, just the quadricep contracting, releasing, but it moved. Then his right leg. Same thing, a twitch, a spasm, something. Hale's breath came in short gasps now, his chest heaving. Sweat ran down his temples, dripped off his chin, stained the collar of his robe. He pushed again, one more time. Everything he had, everything he'd been saving for 5 years. All the anger, all the guilt, all the self-hatred, all of it channeled into his arms, into his core, into muscles that had forgotten how to work, and he rose. 3 inches, 6 inches, 1 foot. His legs shook like a newborn colt's, like something that had never stood before, never borne weight, never had to hold a human body upright, but they held. Judge Jonathan Hale stood, for the first time in 1,847 days. For the first time since a surgical infection had stolen his ability to walk. For the first time since he'd decided that sitting in that chair was his punishment for all the people he'd failed. He stood. The robe hung wrong. Tailored for a seated man, the hem dragged on the floor. The sleeves were too long, but he didn't care. His shadow stretched behind him. Thrown on the wall by the overhead lights, for 5 years, his shadow had been the shadow of a man in a wheelchair. Hunched, small, broken. Now it was just a man, tall, upright, whole. The courtroom was silent. Not breathing silent, dead silent. The kind of silence that happens when people witness something impossible. Something that shouldn't be real, but is. Then someone started clapping. Slow, steady, one person, Eleanor Shaw, standing in the witness box, her hands coming together, the sound echoing through the courtroom. Clap, clap, clap. Then another person, a reporter in the back row, then the bailiff, then Rebecca Carter, then Thomas, still holding Alara, standing and clapping with one hand against his chest. Within seconds, the whole courtroom was standing, applauding, some crying, some laughing, some just staring in shock. Hale gripped the bench. His legs were still shaking, threatening to give out, but he stayed standing, looked out at the faces, at the people who'd watched him sit in judgment for 5 years, who'd seen him roll in and out of this courtroom every day, who'd probably wondered if he'd ever get out of that chair. "Sit down," he said, not loud, not harsh, just tired. "All of you, sit down. I'm not done." The applause stopped. People sat, the rustling of fabric, the creaking of pews. Then silence again. Hale looked at Caleb Rowan, at the man still standing, still shaking, still waiting for the hammer to fall. "Mr. Rowan, You stole $2.1 million. You used it to build a children's hospital wing. That makes you a thief with a conscience. The law doesn't know what to do with people like you, but I do." Caleb nodded, accepting, ready. "Here's my sentence. You will liquidate your personal assets, all of them, the cars, the houses, the stocks, the watch on your wrist, everything except what you need to live a modest life. And by modest, I mean actually modest. Not a millionaire's idea of modest. I'm talking 2-bedroom apartment, used car, normal person modest." Hale's legs were shaking harder now. He locked his knees, forced them straight. "You will establish a foundation, the Sophia Wynne Foundation, dedicated to providing free medical care for uninsured children. 0 wait times, 0 denials, 0 we don't have room. You will appoint Eleanor Shaw as executive director. Salary $85,000 annually. Full benefits, pension, everything she lost when you fired her." Eleanor gasped. Her hand went to her mouth. "You will appoint Dr. Thomas Wynne as medical advisor. Unpaid. If he chooses to accept, he'll oversee patient care. Make sure every child gets treated. Make sure no one else has to hear, 'We don't have room,' ever again." Thomas's throat was tight, closed. He couldn't speak, just nodded. "And you, Mr. Rowan, will work as a patient advocate. Volunteer, no salary, no benefits, no corner office. You will personally meet every family whose child is treated by the foundation. You will look them in the eye. You will learn their names. You will remember their stories, and you will sleep at night knowing that this time, you said yes." Caleb's face was wet. Tears and sweat and something else. Relief, maybe. Or horror. Hard to tell which. "Furthermore," Hale continued, "this court establishes a scholarship, the Sophia Marie Wynne Memorial Scholarship. When Alara Wynne turns 18, if she chooses to attend medical school, her education will be fully funded. Tuition, room, board, books, everything. Funded by Mr. Rowan's estate, managed by Mrs. Shaw. And if Mr. Rowan dies before Alara graduates, which given his stress level seems likely, the remaining funds will continue to support the foundation in perpetuity." Hale looked at Aurora, the one-eyed stuffed dog still sitting on the bench, staring at him with that single glass eye. "The foundation's logo will be a white husky, with one eye, and the motto will be, 'We see the good.' Because that's what Sophia saw, that's what Alara sees, and that's what the rest of us need to learn to see. The good in people, even when they've done terrible things, even when they've hurt us, even when they don't deserve it." His legs were giving out. He could feel it. The muscles failing, the weakness spreading. He had maybe 30 seconds before he collapsed. "Now, Agent Miller, before I sit back down and lose whatever dignity I have left, do you still want to arrest Mr. Rowan?" Agent Miller looked at the warrant, at his team, at Caleb Rowan, who was still standing at the bench, still shaking, still waiting. "Your Honor, the charges are serious. Wire fraud, embezzlement. The U.S. Attorney's Office is going to do what I tell them to do, because I'm about to call in every favor I've earned in 30 years on the bench, and I'm going to make sure that Mr. Rowan's sentence stands, not because he doesn't deserve prison, but because prison is easy. Prison lets you sit down, hide, disappear. This," Hale gestured to Caleb, "this is harder. Living with what you've done, facing it every day, using your money, the money you worshipped, to help the people you hurt. That's a life sentence. That's real punishment." Agent Miller was quiet, thinking. His hand was still on the handcuffs. "I'll need to make some calls." "Make them outside. This is still my courtroom." Agent Miller nodded, gestured to his team. They filed out. The door closed behind them. Hale's legs buckled. He caught himself on the bench, barely. His arms shook, locked, held. "Thomas Wynne," he said, voice hoarse now, fading. "All charges against you are dismissed. With prejudice, the record will be expunged. The state will issue a formal apology, and if anyone suggests you're guilty of anything except being a good man in a corrupt system, they'll answer to me. Understood?" Thomas stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank your daughter. She's smarter than all of us combined." Hale looked at Alara, at the small girl holding a stuffed dog, at the child who'd walked into his chambers and told him to stop punishing himself, who'd somehow known things she shouldn't know, said things she shouldn't be able to say. "Miss Wynne, can you do me a favor?" Alara nodded. "Can you bring Aurora up here? I need to borrow her for a minute." Alara climbed down from Thomas's lap, walked through the gate, up to the bench, handed Aurora to Judge Hale. He took the stuffed dog, held it carefully, like it might break, like it was something precious. "Thank you," he whispered, to Alara, to Aurora, to Sophia, to whoever was listening. Then his legs gave out completely. He dropped, hard, fast. His knees hit the floor behind the bench. The sound was loud, brutal, the kind of sound that means injury, pain, damage. But Hale was laughing, lying on the floor of his courtroom, behind the bench where no one could see him except the bailiff who rushed over. "I'm okay, Mike. I'm okay. I needed to sit down. Should I call an ambulance? No. Call physical therapy. Tell them Judge Hale is ready to start again. Tell them he's done sitting down." Above him, on the bench, Aurora, the one-eyed stuffed dog, sat alone. Keeping watch, the way she'd been keeping watch for 10 years, and in the gallery, a young reporter was typing furiously, because she'd just witnessed something impossible. A judge standing up, a millionaire falling down. A child teaching a courtroom full of adults what justice actually looked like. She hit send on her article. The headline would spread across the country within hours. Newspapers from New York to Los Angeles would pick it up. Television networks would call. The story would become legend. But none of that mattered yet. Right now, in courtroom 4C, Judge Jonathan Hale was lying on the floor of his chambers, laughing and crying at the same time. Because for the first time in 5 years, his legs hurt, really hurt. The good kind of hurt. The kind that means muscles working, blood flowing, life returning, and outside his chambers, through the closed door, he could hear it. Caleb Rowan, still at the bench, still standing, whispering something over and over. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." But he wasn't talking to the judge, or the lawyers, or the FBI agents who'd left to make their calls. He was talking to a photograph, printed on copy paper, faded, worn, Sophia Wynne, age 9. Bald, smiling, holding a white husky puppy. The photograph he'd kept in his wallet for 10 years, hidden behind his credit cards, behind his driver's license, behind everything. Where no one could see it but him, where he could look at it every time he opened his wallet, every time he paid for something, every time he counted his money. A reminder, a punishment, a prayer, and now, finally, an absolution. 3 months later, June, San Diego heat making the asphalt shimmer, making the air thick enough to taste. Mercy Hospital, new wing, fresh paint, glass and steel and something that looked like hope if you squinted right. The building was modern, clean, all sharp angles and natural light. Nothing like the old wing where Sophia had died, where Aurora the real dog had stopped eating, where everything had gone wrong. Above the entrance a portrait, not a photograph, a painting, commissioned, professional. Sophia at 9, bald from the chemo she never received, but painted with hair, long, brown, the way it would have been if she'd lived, if she'd grown up, If Caleb Rowan had signed a different piece of paper on a different day, she was smiling in the painting. Wide, genuine. The kind of smile that said she knew something the rest of the world didn't. Something good. Something worth holding on to. In her arms, a white husky puppy. Blue eyes, both of them. No missing eye. Just whole. Perfect. The way things are in paintings. The way they should have been in life. Beneath the portrait. A bronze plaque. Sophia's wing. Dedicated to every child who waited too long. We see the good. Sophia Marie Wynne. 2006 to 2015. Thomas stood in front of the plaque, reading it for the 10th time, maybe the 20th. He'd lost count. His hand was on Alara's shoulder. She was wearing a new dress. Yellow. With flowers? Eleanor had bought it for her last week. First new dress Alara had ever owned that wasn't from a thrift store. Daddy, do you think Sophia likes it, the painting? Thomas's throat was tight. Yeah, baby. I think she does. Even though she has hair in it, she didn't have hair when she died. I think that's why she likes it. Shows her the way she should have been, the way she deserved to be. Alara nodded, reached into her cardigan pocket, pulled out Aurora, the one-eyed stuffed dog, worn, loved, still missing that eye, still sporting that crooked pink surgery scar down the belly. Aurora says Sophia's happy, says she's glad Mr. Rowan finally did something right. Thomas looked across the courtyard. Caleb Rowan stood near the ribbon, scissors in hand, but not the ceremonial giant scissors they use for grand openings. Just regular scissors, office scissors, the kind that cost $3 at the drugstore. Caleb looked different, thinner. The expensive suits were gone, replaced with khakis from Target, polo shirt, no logo, no brand, just blue, plain. His wrist was bare, no watch, no expensive timepiece, just a pale band of skin where it used to be, where he'd checked it compulsively, where he'd measured his worth in complications and mechanisms and things that told time but never gave you more of it. He was holding something else, a photograph, printed on copy paper, the edges soft from being carried. Sophia, real Sophia, holding real Aurora. The photo from the medical file, the one Eleanor had smuggled out, the one that had saved Thomas's life and destroyed Caleb's. Eleanor stood beside Caleb. Executive director now. $85,000 a year. Full benefits. Pension. The hospital ID badge around her neck was new. Not expired. Current. It read Eleanor M. Shaw. Executive director. Sophia Wynne Foundation. She'd gained weight. Just a little. The hollows in her cheeks had filled in. The shadows under her eyes had faded. Turned out not worrying about rent and food and whether you'd made the right choice 10 years ago did wonders for your health. Judge Hale stood next to Eleanor, not in his wheelchair, standing, using a cane, carved walnut, brass handle. A gift from the San Diego Bar Association after the story of him standing in court had spread across the country, had been picked up by newspapers from coast to coast. That number again, 47, like the universe was trying to tell them something. Hale still used the wheelchair sometimes. Bad days. Days when the pain was too much. When the muscles gave out. When sitting down was the only option. But most days, good days, he stood. Walked. Moved through the world upright. Free. He'd started dating his physical therapist, a woman named Grace. 56, divorced, 2 grown kids. She didn't care that he'd been in a wheelchair, didn't care that he sometimes needed help, didn't care about any of it except that he was kind, that he listened, that he made her laugh. They were getting married in September, small ceremony, courthouse, the same courthouse where everything had changed, where a 7-year-old girl had told a judge to stand up, where he'd listened. Everyone ready. A photographer from the Tribune. The same one who'd taken pictures of Thomas on the courthouse steps 3 months ago. The cruel ones. The ones with headlines about stealing from dying children. She'd written an apology. Published it on the front page. Donated her paycheck to the Sophia Wynne Foundation. It wasn't enough. Could never be enough. But it was something. "Ready," Eleanor said. Her voice was steady, strong, the voice of someone who'd found her purpose again, who'd been lost and was found, who'd been fired and was hired, who'd been forgotten and was remembered. Caleb lifted the scissors. His hands were shaking, still shaking. 3 months later, the tremor had never stopped. Probably never would. Some things you carry forever. He cut the ribbon. It fell, red silk pooling on the concrete. Behind the glass doors, the pediatric wing. Bright colors. Murals on the walls, toys, books, play areas, and kids, actual kids, bald kids, sick kids. Kids with IV poles, with bandages, with monitors beeping. But alive, breathing, fighting, winning. In 3 months, the Sophia Wynne Foundation had treated 127 children. 0 denials, 0 wait lists, 0 "we don't have room." 47 of them were in remission. That number again, 47, like Sophia was keeping count. Like she was making sure the universe balanced itself out. One empty bed at a time. The doors opened. They walked inside. The lobby smelled like new carpet and fresh paint and hand sanitizer. Hospital smell, but cleaner. Brighter. Less like dying. More like trying. On the left wall, letters, hundreds of them. Taped, thumbtacked, stapled, from families, from children, from parents who'd been told no somewhere else and heard yes here. Eleanor walked to one, pulled it down gently. The paper was lined notebook paper, a child's handwriting, crayon. "Dear Sophia, thank you for making the hospital that saved my sister. Her name is Hope. She is 5. She had cancer, but now she doesn't. Mom says you were an angel. I think you were just a kid who wanted to help. Thank you. Love, Miguel, age 7. Eleanor's voice cracked on the last word. She folded the letter carefully. Put it back. Another letter. This one typed. Formal. Adult handwriting at the bottom. Dear Sophia Wynne Foundation, our daughter Emma received treatment here in April. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The same diagnosis Sophia had. The same one that took her life. But Emma is alive. She is in remission. She starts 3rd grade in September. This morning she asked why her hair was growing back brown when it used to be blonde. We told her, that's how you know you're getting better. You're becoming someone new. Thank you for giving our daughter the chance to become someone new. Thank you for remembering Sophia. We will never forget her. The Patterson family. Thomas was crying now, silent, tears running down his face. He didn't wipe them, just let them fall. Alara took his hand. Daddy, it's okay to cry. Aurora says crying means you're happy sad. That's a good kind of sad. Yeah, baby, that's exactly what this is. They walked outside, found a bench near the entrance. Hospital bench, wood and metal. Uncomfortable, but it faced the portrait, faced Sophia, faced Aurora, faced everything they'd lost and everything they'd built from the losing. Thomas sat. Alara climbed into his lap. Caleb approached, hesitated, looked at the bench like it might reject him, like he didn't deserve to sit. Can I? His voice was rough, still raw, still broken in places. Can I sit? Thomas nodded, moved over, made room. Caleb sat, not close, keeping distance, keeping space between himself and the man he'd destroyed, the man he'd tried to destroy, the man who'd refused to stay destroyed. They sat in silence, watching the kids through the glass doors, watching nurses, doctors, parents, life happening, life continuing, life refusing to stop just because bad things had happened. "Thomas," Caleb said finally, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "Okay. Why don't you hate me?" Thomas watched Alara. She'd climbed down, was showing Aurora to a small boy in a wheelchair. The boy was maybe 5, bald, thin, IV pole beside him. He reached out, touched Aurora's missing eye, smiled. "Because hate's just love with nowhere to go," Thomas said. "You loved Sophia, same as me. You just didn't know how to show it till it was too late. And punishing you won't bring her back, won't bring Maria back, won't change anything except make 2 more people miserable. And there's enough misery in the world already." Caleb's hands were shaking harder now. He pressed them between his knees, trying to stop it. Couldn't. "I've been sober 87 days, he said. Quiet, like confessing a sin. "Didn't even know I had a drinking problem till I couldn't afford whiskey anymore. Turns out when you liquidate everything and live on $40,000 a year, you gotta make choices. And I chose sleep over scotch, food over wine, living over drowning. That's good. Caleb, real good. I sold the mansion, living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Normal Heights. Walk to work. Haven't driven a car in 3 months. And you know what? I sleep. 8 hours a night. I dream about Sophia sometimes. But now she's smiling. She says, 'You did good. Mr. Rowan, you finally did good.'" Thomas reached out, squeezed Caleb's shoulder, brief, firm, the way you touch someone when words aren't enough. "She's right. You did." Eleanor walked over, Judge Hale beside her, moving slow, the cane tapping on concrete, but moving, not stopping, not sitting, just moving forward. "Sunset in 20 minutes. Eleanor said, "We should get the photo while the light's good." They gathered, the 5 of them. In front of Sophia's portrait, Thomas, Alara, Eleanor, Caleb, Judge Hale, not related by blood, not even friends, really, but family anyway, built from broken pieces, forged in courtrooms and hospitals and moments when everything went wrong and somehow turned right. The photographer lifted her camera. "Say, Sophia." They didn't say anything, just smiled, real smiles, not performance, not pretend. Just humans who'd survived something terrible and come out the other side changed. Scarred. But whole in the ways that mattered. The camera clicked. They walked away together. Alara skipping ahead, turning, waving. "Come on, ice cream. Place closes at 7. The 4 adults followed. Eleanor and Hale walking together, talking quietly, making plans. Caleb and Thomas behind them, side by side, not quite touching, but close. The sun was setting, orange and pink and purple, the kind of sunset that makes you believe in second chances, in redemption, in the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the universe keeps score in ways we don't understand, in ways that balance out. Eventually, if you wait long enough, if you try hard enough, if you refuse to give up. Thomas looked back once, at Sophia's portrait, at the building that carried her name, at the children inside being saved by the money that should have saved her, at the legacy built from loss, and he heard it, clear as a bell. Maria's voice, the way she used to sound before grief took her, before heartbreak stopped her heart. "You did good, Thomas. Our girls are going to be okay, both of them. Sophia's watching from wherever she is, and Alara's walking beside you. And that's all we ever wanted, for our girls to be okay." Thomas nodded. Once, acknowledgement, agreement, goodbye. Then he turned, walked toward his daughter, toward the ice cream shop, toward the rest of his life, a life that included $40,000 a year from his pension, a studio apartment, a 15-year-old suit, and a 7-year-old girl who'd saved him without knowing it, who'd saved all of them without meaning to, who'd just been herself, honest and brave and impossibly kind, and changed everything. Behind them, the hospital lights came on, floor by floor, window by window, until the whole building glowed. Golden. Warm, like a lighthouse, like a beacon, like hope made visible for anyone who needed to find their way home. I've been sitting here for a while after telling you about Thomas and Alara and Sophia, and I notice my chest feels heavy. Not sad, exactly, just heavy. The way it feels when you've carried something for a long time and finally set it down, and you're not sure if you should pick it back up or leave it there. Many of us know what it's like to be misunderstood, to be judged before anyone asks our story. Some of us have been Eleanor fired for doing what we thought was right, then spending years wondering if we made a mistake. Some of us have been Caleb making a decision that seemed smart at the time, then living with it every day after. Perhaps you've been Thomas loving someone so much you gave up everything, and nobody noticed until it was almost too late. The thing is, these stories don't tie up neat. Judge Hale still has bad days, Caleb still wakes up at 3 a.m, Thomas still looks at that empty space on his ring finger, and that's all right. Not everything needs to be fixed. Some things are just allowed to be tender, allowed to rest unresolved. Thank you for staying through all of this. Thank you for listening when the world gets loud and stories like these get quiet.